Welcome to the CBR Briefing. I'm Joseph Cox. This week's topic struck a clear chord. Our TikTok explainer on the Cayman immigration reforms drew just over 129,000 views in just a few days, clear evidence of how deeply this issue resonates across the region. So today we are going to go deeper, unpacking not just the headlines but the policy shift behind them. Indeed, there is no doubt that within the Cayman Islands, a sweeping immigration and labor reform agenda has begun to take effect. Anchored in a rebranded national vision, it marks a decisive shift from liberal labor mobility to a doctrine of Caymanian priority. On May 29th, Cabinet approved drafting instructions to amend the Immigration Transition Act of 2022, launching Phase 1 of private sector immigration reform. Among the key proposals, a national workforce database and a workforce plan, job switching rules, reforms to work permits, permanent residency and employment rights certificate, and the right to be Caymanian. Higher income thresholds to support dependents, annual declarations and new administrative fees, a revised PR point system favoring community contribution, stricter compliance rules including revocation for sham marriages or breaches, and partnerships with Chamber of Commerce to align education and industry needs. Symbolically, the legislation will be renamed the Caymanian Protection Act. The stated goal is to place Caymanians at the center of economic opportunity, but what does the data show? As of July 21st, 2025, unemployment stands at just 2.8%. According to the 2024 Labor Force Survey, labor force is 60,828, and employed persons are 59,393. The resident population is 88,833, up 4.8% year on year, but 60% plus of residents are non-Caymanian. This isn't a marketing crisis, it's a marketing flux. Employment is high, but population growth is accelerating pressure on housing, services, and wage dynamics. The National Workforce Database will include Caymanian graduates, over 1,000 scholarships awarded in 3 years, 65,000 plus annual immigration decisions processed by WORC, nearly 9,000 jobs posted in the first half of 2025, data on fields of study, job gaps, and work permit justifications. This framework aims to close structural mismatches between workforce supply and the labor demand. The new restrictions represent a tightening of the labor gate. Permit holders must remain with one employer for 2 years. Switching jobs after that requires a 6-month exit. Those without permanent residency after 9 years must leave for 2 years. New income thresholds applying for adding dependents. And sham marriages and non-compliance will lead to deportation or status revocation. In fact, one of the more controversial proposals confirmed by Minister Mills involves residency rights for non-Caymanian spouses. Under the draft reforms, if a work permit holder is married to a Caymanian for less than 5 years and the Caymanian dies, the surviving spouse would lose their RERC. The measure is designed to close loopholes and prevent system abuse, but critics warn it could destabilize families and create legal uncertainty for widowed non-Caymanians who may have built full lives in the territory. These rules are designed to curb abuse, but they also signal a broader shift from economic flexibility to state control. The Civil Service is next. Starting January 1, 2026, new term limits will apply to non-Caymanians. Mandatory 2-year break before re-employment, restrictions on private to public sector transfers, reserved roles for Caymanians, contractual obligations for non-Caymanian officers to train Caymanians, and of course this complements the succession planning pilot launched in July, starting with the Chief Human Resources Officer post. But this is more than immigration reform, it's systemic redesign. The Cayman Islands Cabinet is now coordinating across the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Caymanian Employment, and the Chamber of Commerce to roll out internships and apprenticeships, formal skills to jobs pipeline, real-time data sharing across ministries. In short, Cayman is building a new governance model, one that fuses identity-based immigration, data-driven labor planning, strategic gatekeeping in both the public and private sectors. The Caymanian Protection Act marks a shift from short-term labor flexibility to long-term workforce sovereignty, and this isn't happening in a vacuum. In the Turks and Caicos Islands, policymakers have implemented similarly restrictive frameworks. Officials now routinely withhold passports from transit passengers, citing security concerns. Work permit holders in TCI are bound to a single employer and cannot switch jobs without employer reapproval. Further, they must leave the territory and reapply from abroad if they want to change jobs. There is no credit for prior residency towards permanent status if they switch employers. Under proposed amendments, unskilled workers may be limited to 3 consecutive years on island before being required to exit for at least 3 months, and permanent residence eligibility could stretch from 10 to 15 years of continuous legal stay. These parallel moves suggest a regional trend, or Caribbean recalibration, where small states are redefining the balance between openness and ownership. These systems reflect a common philosophy: restrict circular immigration, anchor work permits to employer control, and extend the road to long-term settlement. Together, Cayman and TCI signal a Caribbean pivot, from reactive labor market access to proactive population and sovereignty management. But with Cayman's unemployment near historic lows, the question remains: are these reforms about protecting opportunity or controlling identity? Can Cayman remain competitive while tightening the rules of access? And will others follow this model or seek a different balance? We'll be watching how the January 2026 reforms roll out and how employers, workers, and regulators respond. Now that's it for this edition of the CBR Briefing. I'm Joseph Cox.